Joining me now, Democratic Senator Tammy Baldwin of Wisconsin. First, let me start with that McConnell, what McConnell said today about this idea we may not get there. You know, a lot of people feel like what happened in the House was that the Republicans sort of played possum a little bit, and scrutiny went away, and then lo and behold, they had a deal and they passed it. Do you take the trouble that McConnell seems to be having at face value, or do you think something like that is happening again?
You know, what I took from his words today is that there is a small opening in terms of our ability to be able to work together after this bill is defeated. But that's the first piece of order. When you have a measure in front of the Senate that would result in 22 million Americans losing their health care, the cutting and capping of Medicaid, and weakening of protection for people with pre-existing conditions. The first order of business is to make sure that bill is defeated, and it sounds like Mitch McConnell is conceding that he's going to have trouble passing it with just his own Republican votes. So I hear him as opening a door that the next step would have to be working together, and that's what I've been pushing for all the way along, as have my Democratic colleagues. We know that there's lots to do to bring down prices, to help provide more care to more people for less money, but we need to work together to do that.
You use the phrase defeated there, and I wonder what the definition of that is in this context. I mean, what would it say to you, like, what would be the mark to you that this version of the Senate health care bill, the BCRA, the Mitch McConnell drafted version, was actually defeated?
Well, it can happen in all sorts of forms, and frankly, I'm not sure what we name it is important. What we need to do is pivot from an effort to repeal the Affordable Care Act, an effort to scrap health care, rip away health care from 22 million Americans, and move towards an effort to work together across the party aisle to bring down costs, to fix what's wrong with the Affordable Care Act, and to, expand access beyond what it is already. And I can tell you, I'm glad to hear the clips you're playing of what my Republican colleagues are hearing across the country. I can tell you here in Wisconsin, there's an urgency to the voices and stories that I've been hearing. And particularly today, I just came from Dodgeville, Wisconsin, a rural community where I heard from Deb. She's 59 years old. She's worked hard all her life, usually in jobs with no health insurance. She has conditions that actually run in her family, and she is terrified that she will lose coverage that she has gained because of the passage of the Affordable Care Act.
And yet Ron Johnson, who is the Republican senator who also represents your state, basically is opposed to the Senate bill because he says it doesn't go far enough, that it still has things like, for instance, some protections for folks with pre-existing conditions. How is it that this same state can produce two individuals who see this so differently?
Well, the bottom line is that we've got to defeat this. We've got to move on from this partisan nonsense of trying to repeal the Affordable Care Act and start working together to make sure that Americans have access to affordable coverage. And if he gets to no because he doesn't think it goes far enough or he doesn't like the process, I agree with him on the process part, but at least it will be one of the no votes that allows us to pivot to working together. And frankly, I believe it can be done. You know, I've teamed up with John McCain to introduce a measure that would hold the drug corporations accountable for the price spikes that people are struggling with, often to be able to afford life-saving drugs. I've teamed up with Susan Collins on recognizing and supporting our family caregivers who play such a pivotal role in people's health and well-being. And we can do this, but we've got to stop with the partisan nonsense first. And boy, I can tell you, my constituents in Wisconsin are so eager for us to stop this partisan, this Partisan game, really, and start working together.
All right, Senator Tammy Baldwin, thanks for joining me.